You're listening to episode 106, Facing Your Fears and Overcoming Challenges with Confidence, with Cassie Gannis. Welcome to the Grass Gets Greener podcast, the show for survivors by survivors. I'm your host, Melissa Wilson, a bullying survivor and anti-bullying advocate. And each week you'll hear from a survivor who has overcome a traumatic experience to go on to not only survive, but thrive, so that you can too, starting now. Hey guys, welcome and thanks so much for joining me for this episode of the podcast. Today I have on professional race car driver Cassie Gannis. Cassie is someone who has a lot of confidence today, but that wasn't always the case for her. She's going to tell us about how she was bullied growing up, mainly because of having dyslexia, and how that made her self-conscious and shy. In particular, she's going to talk about how she didn't want people to feel bad for her for having dyslexia, because it was something that she couldn't control, and how she's not afraid to speak out about her dyslexia now. We're going to talk about overcoming limitations and how learning disorders don't have to hold you back, the challenges she's faced as a female race car driver, and we're going to talk about pursuing your passions no matter what, and Cassie's advice to anyone who feels afraid to do just that. So if you're someone who was bullied growing up, especially if it was because of a learning disorder, or if you just have some limiting beliefs about yourself that hold you back, or if you just need some encouragement to follow your passions, then this episode is for you. And I just want to mention quickly that you guys seem to like the update episode I did with past guests of the show, Alan Eisenberg. So you can look for more past guests to return soon, and let me know if there's anyone in particular you'd like to make sure I definitely bring back on. Okay, well, I don't think I have anything else to mention right now, so we'll go ahead and get into this one, and I'll bring Cassie on, and I'll catch you in the outro. Cassie, welcome to the podcast, and thank you for joining me here today to share your story with us.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. So you and I got to chat not too long ago on another show which I co-host called The Cassidy and Melissa Show, and after getting to learn about you and your story from having you on there, I definitely wanted to have you on here as well because I know my audience here will find your story really inspiring. So thank you for, coming on here to continue the conversation, if you will.
Yeah, no, thank you. It's always great to get other people's perspectives on what they've been through and help people through their struggle. If they're struggling through different things, whether it's bullying, life, whatever, it's always good to just get another person's perspective of how they get through it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, given what you've gone through and the challenges that you've faced growing up and, how you've been able to overcome them to get to where you are today, and to be doing what you're doing today, I think is definitely going to be beneficial for my audience to hear about. So, what I like to do, Cassie, is have you kind of start us off by letting us know about what you experienced growing up. And I know for you it was bullying. So can you kind of, give us a summary of what you experienced with that?
Yeah, I mean, growing up, even in elementary school, middle school, and all the way through high school, I was diagnosed with dyslexia, which you get letters mixed up, and I have trouble reading. And even when I was in high school, I could only read at like a sixth grade level, which to me was embarrassing because when you're in high school and things like that, and people are reading college books and things like that, and they're like, oh yeah, read this, and it's kind of embarrassing. And when you're in class and you have to go through this whole reading process of how you get called on in class and have to read a paragraph, whatever it is. And I always had trouble with it, and people would always make fun of me of how I was stupid, I couldn't get words right and all this. And it really upset me that my peers would say this about me. And
Yeah, it must make you feel very self-conscious.
yeah, so eventually I would just stop talking to people and not even my friends too. I kept it from them, and they would feel bad for me, which I didn't want people to feel bad for me because it was something that I couldn't control.
Mm-hmm.
And they would always try to help me, and to me it was even more embarrassing to have people try to help me instead of me just trying to figure it out and do it on my own. And when you're in high school and things like that, you just kind of want to stay to yourself. And high school is one of those things where you kind of find your own way, and that's when bullying really starts to come out because you have those certain cliques. And I finally found some friends who are like, we don't care if you can't read, can't do anything. We like you for you. And that's what really helped me too, or finding people and surrounded myself around people who didn't care about that stuff.
Yeah,
Even
that
though I
must have
had
been
trouble
a huge
reading,
help. Mm-hmm.
yeah, and they didn't care about it. So it's really nice to be surrounded by people who support you no matter what, whether you can't read or things like that. It was really helpful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Now, I mean, how did this kind of play out for you, as you went into adulthood? I mean, did you find that you were still being affected in ways by by having been bullied for these certain things?
Oh yeah, I mean it still does. Even now, I'm like I have to read stuff, and I still go to my mom being like, "Hey, how do you say this word?" Because I don't know how to say it. And it's definitely hard, but you learn to push through it, and I'm actually more confident now than anything.
That's great. Yeah, I mean, do you find, I think like sometimes when that like, there's something about you that, if people are making fun of you for, right? Like, I mean, for instance, when I was getting bullied in school, one of the things that I was made fun of for was like having acne, you know, and it's hard because it's like one of those things that you can't really control, and in your case, I know that these are things you can't control. Um, did it make you kind of feel resentful toward yourself for having these things, or did you have kind of another take on that?
Well, like, I kind of was when I was in high school. I always thought, like, why me? Why is this happening to me? Because I was the type of kid who couldn't read in class. I didn't dress properly like the popular kids would. So the quote unquote popular kids would be the ones to pick on you no matter how you look because you didn't have their kind of thing. But now I don't because it made me a stronger person now than what I was back then. I'm not afraid to speak out about it now, saying like, yeah, I have trouble reading. So what? That's me. I have dyslexia. That's me. That's who I am.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not afraid to say it now.
Yeah. So you don't view it as, kind of like a negative thing per se.
Yeah, no, I don't have a negative thing at all because it made me who I am now, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Right. Right. And you feel good about who you are now.
Yeah, because
Mm-hmm.
that's who I am. I can talk to other people now who are going through the same issue about how they're having trouble in school because they're diagnosed with dyslexia, they're having trouble reading, the popular kids are picking on you, whatever the case is. It's one of those things where you have to look at it at both sides.
Mm-hmm.
Just because you're the one getting picked on, the people who are picking on you, they're not picture perfect as they might seem
Right.
either. So it's kind of like a both ends, no matter what.
Mm-hmm. No, and I think it's great that you're speaking on these topics because, kids out there who are going through this as well, maybe, they are dealing with dyslexia, for instance, like you did, they're probably feeling bad about themselves, so I think it's good that they have someone like you who can help them to hopefully feel a little bit better about that situation.
Yeah, because you can't control everything in your life, and that's that's the thing about it. You just have to keep pushing forward. And just because you have dyslexia doesn't mean that you can't do other things that other people can do. You can still do the same thing. You just have a little bit of a hindrance of reading, and that's it. You can still do whatever you want to do.
Yeah, it's not really a limitation. You find a way to get around it.
Yeah, exactly.
hmm When did you start to kind of have that perspective, though? I mean, was that always the case, or did that take place at some point where you just shifted your perspective and didn't see it as a limitation anymore?
Um, it was probably after I got out of high school, and even when I was in college too. I was going through vet tech school, and I didn't want people to know that I had trouble reading because, I mean, go through the medical field, there's words that a lot of people can't pronounce.
Right.
And that's how it is, unfortunately. And finally, I was just like, whatever, I don't care. This is who I am. I can't say a lot of these words, so be it. And that's when I was like, I don't care. And even in college too, people would kind of make fun of me, and I was just like, I don't care. What do you have to say? I'm like, this is me, and I'm gonna be me no matter what.
hmm Yeah, that's great. So tell us, a little bit about or a little more about what's helped you to get to where you are today. I know we talked a little bit about how, finding people who accepted you for who you were, and didn't judge you, was really helpful. What other things have helped you to get to where you are today?
Well, a lot of people know by now that I race cars,
hmm
and that helped me a lot too because that made me. I was really shy. I didn't want to talk to people. If you would look at me, I would look away. I would try to avoid anybody at all costs. And that made me really break out of my shell of, okay, I can talk to people. Just because I have a disability, I can talk to people and I want to talk to people. And yeah, they might judge me, but it is what it is. And that made me realize too that this is what I love to do and I can talk about it at the same time of what I've been going through.
And how long have you been racing?
I've been racing for 14 years now, not longer.
hmm Yeah, so I can imagine that it was helpful for you as you were going through the bullying situation as well, because you got started racing while you were in school then.
Yeah, I started racing when I was in elementary school, and it's helped me a lot through working with different people and how people look at you a different way, and you kind of see people judge you too, but you just brush them off, being like, I don't care. I'm gonna still do me and what I love to do.
hmm Yeah. Now, I mean, have you faced challenges as a female race car driver?
Oh yeah, you definitely have challenges if you're a female in racing, and whether you're in any type of male-dominated sport or aspect of life, you get those people who automatically think this is a guy sport, so you shouldn't be in here. And it's definitely a challenge to get through that, but you just have to keep pushing forward and show people you're here to do what they can do.
hmm Yeah, so I love how, you didn't kind of let that keep you from doing it. It's another thing that you just pushed through and you knew it was something that you wanted to do, passion of yours that you wanted to pursue and you just went for it. So I think that's great.
Yeah, because just because somebody tells you no doesn't mean you can't do it. It just gives you more motivation to prove them wrong.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, I mean, how would you say that, you're doing overall today, Cassie, and like what sorts of things are you still struggling with?
I mean, I still struggle with a lot. I mean, I'm a person, I'm still gonna be self-conscious about my dyslexia and reading in front of people and things like that, but that's just who I am, and I know people will judge me on how I can't read, but it is what it is. I'm still going to do it even if I struggle, no matter what.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's great. I mean, what would you say, to someone who is, afraid to do something, right? Because they feel like they're not capable of doing it or they have some perceived limitation around it. But it's something that they know they want to pursue. I mean, what would you what could you say to them to maybe help them feel less afraid to take that first step in doing it?
I would just say do it, no matter what. You're not gonna, I guess, figure out if you like to do it or not if you just sit back and watch. You have to live your life whether you're afraid of something or scared that people are going to judge you for it. You just have to go out and do it, no matter what. There's going to people judge you in all aspects of life, whether it's your job or it's something like a sport. You have to go out there and try it and show people that you want to do this. And that's the biggest thing. You have to just follow your passions no matter what.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, you have to just go for it. And of course, it can be scary at first. But I think typically, like, once you start doing it, you see that it's maybe not as scary as you thought it was going to be.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I was scared to go into racing at first because it was a male-dominated sport, and I was only 10 years old when I started it. And you just have to go out there and show people that, hey, I want to do this, and watch me do it.
Yeah, and that just kind of, builds your self-esteem, builds your confidence.
Exactly.
So, Cassie, I mean, tell us a little more about what you have going on today. Do you do just the racing, or do you have other stuff going on as well?
While racing, and then I have a full-time job too as a veterinary technician. So I do that as well.
Cool. Yeah, and I don't think we talked about like what kind of racing it is that you do.
I do stock car racing under NASCAR is what I do.
Cool. And like what kind of, is that like a very demanding schedule? Like I don't know too much about racing, but like is that something that like you're doing all year long, or does it have seasons or?
No, it's basically a all year 24/7 type of thing because you're always doing social media stuff, marketing stuff, whether you're racing or it's the off season, basically from November through February, you're always doing something. So racing is like a full-time job as well.
So yeah, it definitely sounds like it keeps you pretty busy. So yeah, so I think, Cassie, I want to ask you the final question that I have for you today, and that is, given what you know now, if you could go back to when you were going through your tough times and give yourself one piece of advice, what would it be?
I wouldn't honestly change anything because that's how you learn from certain situations of how to become a better person. So I definitely wouldn't change anything or go back and tell myself certain things because that made me who I am today. So I definitely would. I would do it all over again if I had to, even though it wasn't the best of time, but I would definitely do it again.
hmm Yeah, it's a tricky thing. I mean, of course, it's like not fun to go through that stuff. Um, but it has made us who we are, right? And sometimes you wonder, like, who would you be if you hadn't gone through it, you know? But it would be nice, I think, if we could kind of, get to where we are today and be the people we are today without having to go through so much struggle sometimes,
Yeah, definitely. Unfortunately, bullying is one of those things where it's never going to go away no matter what. That's just how it is, unfortunately, even though we all want it to stop. I don't think it will never go away because that's just society. Everybody always judges on what you have, and that's it. I would love to say that we need more people to not judge a book by its cover, but a lot of people do that.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, it just is worse than in high school. And that's just how it is, unfortunately. I would love bullying to stop.
Yeah, it's hard to control other people's behavior, we can only control ourselves and how we react to situations, but not necessarily what other people are going to do to us.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So, Cassie, how can people, find out more about you and connect with you?
They can find me on Facebook. It's just Cassie Gannis, the same thing with Twitter and Instagram, Cassie Gannis. And that's where I am on Facebook and social media.
Sounds good. And you said that you do some speaking as well?
Yeah, I do some speaking. Whenever I have time to.
Mm-hmm.
I do a lot of texting and driving and drinking and driving, speaking. But it's mainly when I can get out there because I do have a full-time job plus racing too. It kind of gets hard to work with my schedule.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha. Great. Well, Cassie, just thank you for coming on here. I appreciate it, and I think your story and your message is one that's, I think, just really inspiring. And just shows people that you can go after your dreams no matter what. And something that you perceive as a limitation doesn't have to be a limitation. So. Yeah, just, thank you for sharing that message with us here today.
Yeah, no, thank you so much for having me on and letting me tell my story of what I've been through.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, I hope that you have a great rest of your day.
Yeah, thank you. You too.
Thanks for listening to the show today. This has been the Grass Gets Greener podcast, episode 106. Go to thegrassgetsgreener.com/Cassie Gannis. That's CassieGannis to find the links mentioned during this episode or to leave a comment. And I hope you found Cassie's story inspiring. What I love about it is how she pushed fear aside to pursue her passion and didn't let the challenges she faced hold her back. I think that sometimes we hold ourselves back because of a perceived limitation. I know I've been guilty of this myself, more than I care to admit. But the thing is that we're always capable of more than we realize. But it's the fear that makes us think we're not. So I encourage you to embrace the fear today and do what you're afraid of in spite of it. It'll be uncomfortable, but it'll most likely be worth it. We can get trapped in a mindset where we think small and we play it small, but it doesn't have to be that way. If you want more, if there's something you've been wanting to pursue, then I encourage you to try. You owe it to yourself. And try to look at the fear and where it's coming from so that you can begin to work past it. So that's my advice for you this week. Come back in 2 weeks for the next episode, and I can actually tell you who that's going to be with. That episode is going to be with Farah Hyman, who is a sexual abuse survivor, and she'll be telling her story publicly for the first time. I think it's a powerful episode, so I hope that you'll join us for that. And if you haven't subscribed to the show yet, then make sure you do that over on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, or wherever you listen so that you can get notified of when a new episode has gone live. And just as a reminder, if you like what I'm doing here with the show and you want to help support it, I have a Patreon campaign set up over at thegrassgetsgreener.com/Patreon. Your support will help me cover the expenses of doing the show as well as allow me to do more with it. So feel free to check that out if that sounds interesting to you, and check out some of the perks I have over there in return for your support. And you can let me know if you have other ideas for the reward levels too. Again, that's over at thegrassgetsgreener.com/Patreon, and you can find it linked up on the site as well. One other reminder, if you're interested in coaching, I do offer that as well. You can reach out to me at melissa@thegrassgetsgreener.com and we can discuss that. I'm here to help you in any way I can, so don't hesitate to reach out. And lastly, don't forget to head over to iTunes or Stitcher to leave the show a rating and review so that we can reach as many survivors as possible. And, as always, have hope.